Well, that was an exciting weekend, wasn't it? Hey everyone, this is Nikachu, and we are going to talk about Grand Prix Vancouver. I'm answering all your questions on Twitter and my Facebook page. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly talk about all my matchups because I already saw that question. And wow, I actually went up against a bunch of tough players. Usually, Grand Prix are just Ponyland. It's an amalgamation of all the local game stores into this gigantic tournament. But it turns out I was up against a lot of tough competition, and yeah, I made it to the finals. Merfolk makes it to the finals. Too bad we couldn't win that finals. Third Grand Prix victory. That has to put Merfolk in ban territory, doesn't it? We have to ban something from Merfolk. Maybe Master the Pearl Trident. Gotta cut Merfolk down to size. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, gone to the finals. So let's talk about some of my opponents here. MTGEloProject.net. Love you guys, by the way. So round two, by the way, round one I got a bye. Round two, I'm up against Affinity. Welcome to Grand Prix Vancouver, Affinity. But I was able to win that match. Round three, I was up against Jund. It was very grindy, but I was able to pull it through. Round four, I'm up against Lantern Control. That match wasn't even damn close. Although maybe game two got close because, okay, so game one, he just slammed Ensnaring Bridge. But game two, I remember, was pretty darn close because he has Infernal Tutor in his hand, but he also has a land in his hand. So he needed to draw a non-land card that he could play, I think, very cheaply or for free so that he could empty his hand, play the land, empty his hand, Infernal Tutor, and find Ensnaring Bridge and play it at the same time. But yeah, he found that and I lost. Round six, sorry, no, so that was round four. Round five was Boggles. Round six is, I didn't notice how strong of an opponent I was playing against. So this guy's a shark. You can see this 1948 rating. He's definitely within the top 1% of players in this game. Grixis Control, very grindy matchup. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about this matchup a bit later when we talk about Tectonic Edge. Tectonic Edge played a big part in that matchup. If I did not have Tectonic Edge in this matchup, I would have lost for sure. There was no way. He was a very good control player, and the only way I could win that game was to strip him off enough lands from doing anything. So we're going to talk. So round seven, I was up against Burn. Round 8 and 9, very good players, both sitting at 1841 and 1904 themselves. They both played Ad Nauseam, and that was a matchup that went by very smoothly, actually mostly because of Vendilion Clique. The counter spells helped a lot, like Dispel and Unified Will, those were all great, but Vendilion Clique hurt them big time because I could see what was in their hand and take something out. And in one of the games, the guy just Pact of Negationed the Vendilion Clique because it was just that important. So then in round 10, I'm up against Ryan Hare, very strong Jund player, and I think he played very well, and I lost. If I remember, yeah, I did lose this game. We had, what happened in game one was very, very grindy, but I came through in that one. Game two, I mulliganed down. That was maybe a non-game, game two. Game two, I mulliganed to a 6-card. Oh no, I kept a 7-card hand, card hand with only one land. I kept a 1-lander on the draw in game two, and it just didn't get there. And in game three, he had this Knight of Souls Betrayal out, plus that Chandra Pyromancer, the one that pings creatures for 1 and you for 1. That combo, unbeatable. That was probably the only time that I felt like Vendilion Clique felt pretty bad, because I did have that in my hand. So round 11, I was up against Grixis Control. That guy, he mulliganed twice, I think, in game one, and mulliganed once in game two. He did not have the best of luck, and I just completely dwarfed him in card advantage. And the Tectonic Edges did not help him either. Round 12, I was up against fellow viewer Evan Muse. Yeah, he was playing Merfolk. He was playing one of my older lists, though. He was playing the list that I suggested for SCG Regionals. And I think his only mistake was that he kept Spell Pierce in post board. That did not help him whatsoever. He didn't realize the value of Gut Shot in that list. Gut Shot kills Curse Catcher, it kills Silvergill Adept, it kills Vendilion Clique, and it is also can make Lord Math very difficult. So I thought Gut Shot was something that he should have had, because in the game that we actually played, he had 2 Spell Pierces that weren't completely dead. I tried to dismember one of his creatures, and he had to play 2 Spell Pierces and sack a Curse Catcher in order to counter my Dismember. Not really where you want it to be. In round 13, I'm up against Drew Christensen, who is a very, very good burn player at the rating of 18-17. Round 14, I'm up against Infect, Stephen Henderson. You had a good run, didn't you? I think, well, good for you, Stephen Henderson. So round 14 was Infect. Round 15 was Amulet Bloom against Bobby Fortanley. Wonderful, wonderful games, Bobby. You're a great player, great Facebook enthusiast. And then in the quarterfinals, I played Affinity against John Stern's Affinity. Semifinals, I played against Sam Black's Death Shadow. And in the finals, of course, I played against Josh Utter-Layton's Death Shadow. So with that all, and look at this, my rating went up a ton. I'm now, according to this rating system, I'm now like 130th in the world. Everything's all looks wonderful. Okay, so let's start answering some questions. I'm going to start on my Facebook page. Okay, so Garrett Stone, would love to hear how you stayed so sharp throughout the whole tournament. What's your preferred tournament snack food? Okay, so one thing that was very different from this tournament than most other tournaments is my quality of sleep. Like I said at Grand Prix Indianapolis, I didn't sleep perfectly well. I had a lot of trouble sleeping way before the tournament. I mean, I had to get up early for like a plane ride or whatever. It's always really rocky, but like the night before the tournament, I still didn't get all that much sleep. So I made sure that I was prepared this time. I'm taking this supplement called melatonin. All it is it's a supplement that helps you get to sleep. It releases a chemical that is normally released from your brain that makes you feel drowsy during the times of the day that you are supposed to be drowsy, because everyone has this internal clock. Your body will try to make sure that you're awake during the hours that you usually are awake, and then try to make you feel tired during the hours that you're supposed to be asleep. And so this sort of just induces that sort of sleepy time mode. And I was using it a few weeks before the tournament. It worked perfectly. For the tournament, it worked perfectly. So I didn't actually sleep like the night before the tournament, and I was up for 36 hours. But the night before the tournament, I made sure I went to sleep very early with melatonin, and I slept for 11 hours. It was very, very long. I was very, very fresh awake when I was awake, and I was very, very sharp and clear. So what's your preferred tournament snack food? What I like to do is I like to get some sort of sandwich or something that I can nibble on between rounds, because you never know how much time you're going to have before the next round. So like for this tournament, I made sure that I got some sort of long sandwich from the concession stand, and then after each round I would just eat a little bit of it while having a glass of water just throughout the tournament. I don't want to eat too much, because if you eat too much, your stomach's gonna you can end up getting like a food coma. You feel tired if you have a very big meal, and that's not good either. So yeah, I try to like eat a little bit throughout the tournament. That works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody else, but I also try to make sure I have sort of food on me. And would you sign my Master of Waves cards? What changes would you make if you could go back? So for the Master of Waves card, just send me a private message. We can try to get something arranged. And what could I wouldn't change anything. I was pretty happy with the list. All the cards worked out perfectly. There was nothing wrong. I ended up using my entire sideboard the entire tournament. In Grand Prix Indianapolis, I think I used something like 3 cards out of my 15-card sideboard. This tournament, I used my entire sideboard to its full potential, and I was very happy with that. And given the matchups that I played against, everything worked out. Like, Dismember was very helpful against Infect. It was very helpful in my Jund matchups. I think it even helped against Affinity, although, well, honestly, Vapor Snag is better in that case anyway. But especially against Jund and Infect, I really needed to have Dismember instead of Vapor Snag. But Snag, of course, is still a wonderful card, and maybe I could have made do with Snag anyway, but I'm not entirely sure. So the way the deck played out, I was very happy with it. Not sure where we're going to go forward, although well, we can talk about that sometime later. Was Dismember better than Gutshot? Does Chalice of the Void have a chance against Death Shadow? Congratulations. I really enjoyed watching Merfolk becoming great again. From Pancho Ronquillo. So was Dismember better than Gutshot? Yes, because I have Dismember for the big creatures. Gutshot is mostly for the Mana Dorks, Infect, and Affinity. I did play against Affinity twice and Infect once, so that would have been fine, but I still needed some sort of normal card to deal with, normal creature matchups like Jund or Merfolk, and Dismember was better in that category. Also, I think Dismember was better placed against my Boggles opponent, because when they play Core Spirit Dancer, you want to kill the thing and make sure it never comes back. Does Chalice of the Void have a chance against Death Shadow? I don't think so, because they play with 4 Inquisition of Kozilek, 4 Thoughtseize, so they're going to see it, they're going to take it. In addition to that, they've got Abrupt Decay and Kolaghan's Command to destroy it. They could just play a Tarmogoyf and beat you down. Like, they could beat you down with a 7-8 Tarmogoyf. Those Tarmogoyfs get very big very quickly. And so I don't think Chalice of the Void is where we're going to look for in this particular Death Shadow deck. It's a Jund Death Shadow deck. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's just a very aggressive version of a normal Jund deck. But it doesn't look like, and Chalice of the Void, of course, isn't very good against Jund, so I don't think it's going to be very good against this. Yeah, okay, so Jake Boyd. Oh no, we have got a reply here. Deck changes going forward, value of Dismember. I don't know, maybe. Okay, so Jake Boyd, how inclined are you to keep using 2x Cleek main in the current meta? I would still keep Cleek in the current meta because there's just too many combo decks like Ad Nauseam, and I think it's still valuable even against Death Shadow. I think it's good against Red Green Valakut. I think it's very good against. I think it's just a very good card. I think the decks where Kira is good, Cleek is still fine. I didn't feel ever that I really needed Kira. I think if I had Kira against any of those Death Shadow decks, I would have just got stomped on anyway. It wasn't really all that relevant. It wasn't too relevant that they were killing my creatures. What was relevant is I just sort of got... well, when I lost to Josh in the third game, he just had a really quick, fast hand, and also he had Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize effects to take my Aether Vial. So not very concerned. I don't feel like I need Kira yet. It's not a big deal. How are you dealing with the progress of the event? By Bernard Baum. You came so close. Are you proud of second place? I would be when it is a GP, or disappointed that you came so close. So when it comes to, this is my philosophy when playing in tournaments. I just want to win the tournament. I don't have any of these sort of stepping stone goals like, oh, I want to make day 2. Oh, I want to make top 8. Like, when I make day 2, don't care. When I made top 8, did not care. Didn't matter at all. When I won the quarterfinals, didn't matter. Semifinals, I didn't even realize that I made $5,000. My friends had to remind me. You reach for the stars and you'll at least get to the moon. So I'm always focused on first place. I'm always focused on winning the tournament, and you have to just take it one game at a time. All I can do is play each game one at a time. And whenever I'm faced with a decision, I'm just trying to make the best decision I can make. And so I don't have any real pressure on me, because it's not like, oh, I'm so close to day 2, because like even if I'm close to day 2, I'm still really, really far away from winning the entire tournament. So I always keep that in mind. And like, I'm probably going to mention this many times in the future. I've been under very high pressure chess tournaments, and I played poker for thousands of dollars. These sort of tournaments are not very stressful for me. I don't feel like there's a lot on the line. Like Magic the Gathering sort of feels like child's play to me. I was under no pressure in any of my matchups. I was just having a lot of fun. I was just trying to make Merfolk great again. And am I proud of second place? I'm really happy about second place. I would think I would have been pretty disappointed if I got eliminated maybe in the semifinals. Well, maybe not. These are not the right words, but I'm usually very happy when I can make the finals of a tournament. So I was really happy about that. I'm glad everyone was cheering me on. That was great. And no, I'm not too disappointed that I came in second place. I'm going to be back in that finals. I'm going to be back in the finals. We're going to get a victory for Merfolk. So Tectonic Edge versus Seas Claim. This was a big thing in the forums. You guys are squabbling about Tectonic Edge and Seas Claim. I think Tectonic Edge is where I wanted to be for this tournament. I think it's better. I think it was better positioned before the tournament. And my reasoning is that I really wanted something against Grixis control. I think when you're up against a very good Grixis opponent, they're very, very strong, and the only way you're really going to beat them is by taking them off mana, which is not something Seize Claim can do effectively. Like, for example, you could Seize Claim, and you can Seize Claim all you want, and they're just going to engineered explosives for one, and then blow them all up, and then that was massive card disadvantage. Or if you Seize Claim and they just keep playing land drops, they can use the blue mana. It doesn't really hurt them all that much. So Seize Claim is just disastrous against the control decks, and Tectonic Edge is very, very good against those control decks. And I was expecting Grixis control going into this tournament. I did play against it twice, so I was happy for that, and it was paramount into that game. I mean, Seize Claim is still a very good card, and if anyone wanted to play it in the tournament, that still would have been fine, because whenever you build your 75, you still have to just hope to play against the decks that you were preparing for. And I fortunately, I need to get lucky in a lot of ways in this tournament, and one of them was that I did end up getting paired against all the decks that I wanted to play against, like Ad Nauseam, Burn, Death Shadow, well, only in the top 8, Grixis Control. Like these were all on my radar, and I did build my deck in such a way so that I was prepared for them. But nothing wrong with Seize Claim. Nothing wrong. You want pack 4 Seize Claim? And we're going to talk about this somewhere else. I think Seize Claim now is the go-to card because Death Shadow is going to be on everyone's mind. Everyone's going to see it. I think it's fine. I think I would prefer to go towards a Seize Claim route now and maybe try to beat Control in some other way. So that was from JP Haworth. We go to Tim Spearer. What hindsight do you have looking back on the whole experience? Not much, I think. I think everything went the way I wanted it to. I don't think I would have wanted to change much or anything at all. For the most part, I was very happy with how I played. I think maybe I could have done some few things differently in the finals. Because I made some mistake. I did some unintentional mistakes in the finals, but overall, yeah, I've nothing in hindsight. So, what aspects of the So now on to Edwin J. Aragon. What aspects of the Grand Prix meta surprised you, if any? Nothing really surprised me. Everything I was prepared for. I was expecting Burn, I was expecting Grixis Control, I was expecting Ad Nauseam, I was expecting some red-green Valakut, I was expecting black-green decks, which I also was prepared for. I was expecting Eldrazi Tron, which there was apparently a lot of. I was expecting there to be Cheerios decks, and I also expected them to get crushed going later in the tournament. Everything ended up going exactly as I expected. The only thing that didn't happen is I didn't play against Eldrazi Tron once. I was anticipating that matchup, but I never ended up playing against it. So that's the only thing that surprised me. But the meta on the grand scheme of things was not particularly surprising. I think there was something, like there was maybe... I was also expecting a little bit of Malira, because there were a few new green cards to help the Malira deck, which is also why I was playing Tidebinder Mage. No, I didn't feel like I was blown away by the metagame at Grand Prix Vancouver. So you seemed quite unhappy with not really being able to settle on a list. How satisfied were you with your list at the start of the Grand Prix? Did you think you were maybe onto something after day 1 at 8-1? Satisfied with the list at the end? And unified will. So it's not that I was unsatisfied with the list. I was unsatisfied with my preparation, because was focusing on studying for 2 big exams in university. I didn't play test for this tournament hardly at all. I did end up getting in 12 games online, which did have an influence how I built this final list. And I was also looking at the metrics on MTG Top 8, which did play a part. So I just wish I was... I wish I got more reps in with my list, because I know that if I can get in enough games with a certain list and I can feel satisfied that I know it's good. When I had my list for Grand Prix Copenhagen, the one that Przemek Notsinski won, I knew that list was great. When I went X3 in Omaha, even though one of those losses was getting cheated by Steven Speck, I knew that was in the Treasure Cruise era. I knew that list was great. So this list, I was sort of just pulling out of my butt, more or less. It was like sort of a theory-crafted list. I got in like a few games online, but really not all that many reps. So I couldn't be super confident with it. All I had to do was hope to play against the decks that I was preparing for, and it turned out. So I wouldn't say I was onto something. I just say, I had my list. And, even if I played my SCG regionals list, that might have been fine as well. It probably could have worked out. I just played my list the best to my ability. Satisfied with the list? Yeah, the list is good. The list is good. And Unified Will didn't end up being a big part. Like, Unified Will could have been Negate, I think. Or maybe not. I did end up playing against Amulet Titan, and Unified Will could have countered a lot of things in that deck. So maybe Unified Will, so the Unified Will did play a part. I mean, I like Unified Will because it's a little bit more versatile against Red Green Valakut and Tron. It hits a lot of stuff there, and some stuff against the Amulet deck, whereas Negate cannot. So the Kyle Kaplan, easiest and hardest matchups. The easiest... What is the easiest? Let's see. Not Jun, that's for sure. Okay, the easiest matchup was Lantern, because I just got stomped, and it wasn't even hard. Did I have any easy matchups? Well, the easiest matchup was probably that Infect matchup, because of how my opponent played it out. He just sort of walked into all my removal spells. I think other than that, okay, so the easiest matchup was probably Amulet, because I don't have many decisions. Amulet is one of those matchups where you do want to take the aggro line with Merfolk. You want to play very aggro, put the creatures on the battlefield as soon as possible, without trying to get blown out by engineered explosives or, what's that? Fire Spout. Don't get blown out by Fire Spout or engineered explosives, but you do want to get those creatures out and just turn them sideways. So that was my easiest matchup. I didn't have too many tough decisions there. I just wanted to put a clock on my opponent as quickly as possible before they could ramp into Primeval Titan or something like that. The hardest matchups, I had a lot of hard matchups. Any game like against Grixis Control or Jund, where I have to think very, very hard about playing around all the removal spells to make sure I don't get blown out. Those were all difficult. Maybe the hardest of all hardest matchups, though, was this Burn matchup. Oh my god, I don't even know how I won this thing. So we're in Game 3, and I'm at 7 life. I have two curse catchers in play. I have a Vial on 1, I think. And I have like I have like 2 Spreading Seas and like a bunch of poor creatures in my hand. So he attacks with Swift Spear, Eidolon, and Goblin Guide. I'm at 7 life. I have only 2 Curse Catchers in play, and he has 2 cards in hand. So I double block his Eidolon with the Curse Catchers, because I realize, my only chance of winning this game is get this Eidolon off the board, try to play things, and I don't know. I won that thing. I won it at 1 life. And that was a real nail biter. That could have went either way. All 3 dispels were used. All 3 of them. And I made sure I saved them for actual burn spells. So what do we have here? What is good against Death Shadow? I think the good stuff against Death Shadow would be a lot of stuff I had. Tidebinder Mage is good. Harbinger of the Tides is good. Vapor Snag is better than Dismember. Seize Claim is good. Seize Claim will be good in that matchup. What else is good? Relic of Progenitus is good because it turns off their stuff. I'm not sure, but maybe Spell Pierce is good. Maybe, like, Spell Pierce might be better. The way they built Death Shadow, they had Lilianas, they had Collective Brutalities, and they may not have 4 mana all the time, but I'm not sure. And you could also turn 1 Spell Pierce, Thoughtseize, or Inquisition effect if you're on the play. Not entirely sure. If Spell Pierce is no good, then maybe Dispel is just going to be the way you have to go. And also, Kolaghan's Command is quite expensive, so it'll be hard for them to play get out of range of Spell Pierce that way. No, maybe Spell Pierce is not the way to go. They could still, like, Inquisition or Thoughtseize that somewhere later in the game. But anyway, yeah, for sure, Vapor Snag, Tidebinder Mage, Harbinger of the Tides, Relic of Progenitus, and Seize Claim. Seize Claim probably is the most strongest card that you could have against them. Do you think you made any mistakes all weekend? How did you feel to top deck those Lords in Game 2 of the finals? Oh, it felt good to top deck those Lords in the game in the finals. It was the most important is that I top decked that Spreading Seas. If I didn't have the Spreading Seas, then the hand didn't have a chance because Josh's hand had just too many black cards, and he would just play 2 things a turn while I have no cards in my hand, and I wouldn't be able to beat him that way. Mistakes, I did make a few. I made one mistake against the Grixis control player, where I attacked a Master of the Pearl Trident into a Tasigur. It wasn't as dumb as that, though. It was that I was trying to force him to... He had 2 engineered explosives on the board, one set on 0, one set on 2, and I had a million Master of Waves tokens. And at the time, I thought that when I was attacking with this Master of the Pearl Trident, that I was forcing him to blow the engineered explosives on 2. But I was wrong. He could blow it up. He could just use the one on 0, blow up all my elementals, which was like I had like 7 elementals, and then he blocked my Master of the Pearl Trident. So that was one mistake. And then I did not play the finals as cleanly as I could. There were some things I would take back. Like on turn 3, I should play my Mutavault instead of this Oboro when I play this Mararejiri. I wish I blocked the Tarmogoyf instead of the Death Shadows in that 3rd game with my Silvergill Adept. Yeah, and then that's about it. Other than that, I thought I played great. I was very happy with my play. I wasn't disappointed about any punts or anything like that. So I was very happy with how I played that entire weekend. Had a lot of sleep. I was very fresh-minded. I was very focused. So going on to Aaron Fram. Okay, looking forward to a deck tech moving forward now that the Grand Prix is over. Is a single copy of Tidebinder Mage in the main really worth it? Any chance of Chalice of the Void coming into the side? Thanks, and congratulations on your result at the Grand Prix. Merfolk for life. Okay, so the reason I have one Tidebinder Mage in the main is because I wanted 3 Tidebinder Mages, but I couldn't find any room in the sideboard. I wanted all those numbers as they were. I wanted 3 Dispel, 4 Unified Will. I wanted 4 Tectonic Edge, 2 Relic of Progenitus. So those numbers couldn't change. So I needed... But I still wanted 3 Tidebinder Mages, so I just got rid of a Harbinger of the Tides in the main deck and then replaced it with a Tidebinder Mage. It wasn't a big deal. I've played the Grand Prix winning list in Grand Prix Copenhagen had 3 Tidebinder Mages in the main deck, and that was at a time when Splinter Twin was the number 1 deck in the format. Any chance of Chalice of the Void coming into the side? Probably not. I'm still not going to be a fan of Chalice of the Void because I don't know if it's really going to be all that effective against Death Shadow Zoo. Like, they're just going to take it with Inquisition or something. I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening. And probably not going to do a deck tech on this thing because, you know, the list is constantly changing. In the next series, we're going to see like another new version of Merfolk, but I probably would be going down a Seize Claim route. Not sure how. But I would think much more for Seize Claim. So Paul Brooks, are you actually going to draft now and play Standard and prep for the Pro Tour? Which Pro Tour? So we're going to hit this question later, but by default, I'm not going to the Pro Tour. I don't really care to, I don't like to draft. I really don't like to draft. I don't feel like going across, traveling across the world to go play Limited and get my head kicked in. And Standard, I also don't like how artificial Standard is because, I made this video to play the deck that speaks to you, to play a deck that fits your style, and Standard doesn't always have that deck available to you. So during the time of Mono Blue Devotion, that would have been great. I loved Mono Blue Devotion. It plays exactly like Merfolk. And the closest thing I can see right now is Blue-White Spirits. So I am actually going to try this deck. I'm going to try to make it work in Standard, and if I can, then I'll think about going to the Pro Tour. If I can't make this thing work at all, I'm just not going. I'm a competitive player. I play to win. I'm not gonna go and get massacred for the sake of, I'm on the Pro Tour. It's not that important to me. What's important is, enjoying the game the way I like to enjoy it in Modern and Legacy. Bring Modern back to the Pro Tour, Wizards. Modern, half Standard. You still get to show off all the flashy new cards in Standard. Make it happen. Antonio Rotundo. How do you feel Vapor Snag would have performed if you included in the 75? Probably poorer than Dismember. Not to say that Vapor Snag is a bad card. It just so happened that in the matchups that I was playing, Dismember actually worked out better for the most part. I probably would have wanted Vapor Snag the most against my Merfolk opponent because Dismember is just a lot worse in that matchup. Ugh, that feels bad, that Dismember. Paying for life against Merfolk is not where you want to be. But Vapor Snag maybe would have worked out fine as well. It's just that in my Jund matchups, I had Dismember at the right time for Dark Confidant, which could have buried me. So, going to Rolando. Rolando says, what was your sideboard against Death Shadow? How would you improved? Which one is the worst matchup against Merfolk in the current metagame? So my sideboard for Death Shadow is just the Dispels and the Tidebinder Mages. And then in the moment, I realized that on the play, I wanted to take out Aether Vial and bring in Tectonic Edge because I didn't think that Aether Vial was going to offer me anything on the play, whereas just getting a bunch of mana out, and also not only getting a bunch of mana out, but also threatening to Tectonic Edge my opponent was a very, very serious when I was playing against Sam Black. Like, the games can go grindy is the point. If they go long and grindy, then they're going to have a lot of lands on the battlefield, and in that case, their mana is really sensitive. So if they have 4 lands out and a Tectonic Edge their Overgrown Tomb or something, Overgrown Tomb, then they have that one less black source in their deck. And they got to be careful. Like, I think Josh Utter Layton's list only had like 2 red sources in the entire deck. If I hit that Blood Crypt and Spreading Seas that Stomping Ground, that cuts off Kolaghan's Command and Tar Fire and Terminate or whatever. I can't remember what else was in his deck. What's the worst matchup? Okay, the new official worst matchup is just Lantern Control. We can't beat that deck at all. Like, against Affinity with no sideboard cards, we can beat it 30% of the time. Against Lantern Control, we don't have a damn chance. They have, even if we bring in 4 Hurkyl's Recalls, they play with like Leyline of Sanctity, and even if they don't play with Leyline of Sanctity, they got Duress, Thoughtseize, Inquisition of Kozilek. They can just make us discard the card off of the top of our library, and they've got a million ways to search up Ensnaring Bridge with Ancient Stirrings, that new Metalcraft land that can tutor for stuff. They play with Infernal Tutor. This is just nuts. There's no way we can beat that deck. I think I have like a clear 0% against Lantern Control every single time I play against it. That's the new worst matchup for Merfolk. We're just going to have to sacrifice that matchup just like all the other matchups. And that's just all we have to do. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And how would you improve the Death Shadow matchup? Maybe Seize Claim. Seize Claim would be the way to improve that matchup. So Marcos asked, hey Nikachu, congrats again. Why keep a hand with 1 island and Vial in the 3rd game of the final being on the draw? Was it not too risky against any deck with Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize? And Tectonic Edge is not too slow against a Death Shadow? Okay, so I took out, like I just explained, I took out Aether Vial on the play to bring in the Tectonic Edges, and then on the draw I took out the Tectonic Edges for the Aether Vial, because when we're on the play, we're the aggressor, so I can afford to not have Aether Vial. I'm going to be playing creatures. Josh is going to be on the defense, trying to blow them up with removal or whatever. So I can afford to not have Aether Vial on the play. But on the draw, I need Aether Vial. He could be too fast. There's a lot of ways where he's going to just stomp me. And yeah, so I really needed this Aether Vial on the draw. So you're asking, though, should I mulligan against an Inquisition and Thoughtseize deck? That is a disaster. You know, the less cards you have in your hand, the more vulnerable you are to Thoughtseize and Inquisition. So mulliganing was not an option. That hand was premium, by the way. It was very, very good. If he did not have Inquisition of Kozilek or Thoughtseize, I had a very good chance of taking down that tournament. And it was not, I don't think it was too risky at all. It's just what we had to do. It put me in it gave me a chance of winning the tournament. Even if he did have Inquisition and Thoughtseize, the hand was loaded with a lot of good threats. Had a lot of creatures. It was very creature dense, so I could fight through all his removal. The only thing I couldn't fight through a lot of was a lot of creatures, and he had a lot of creatures, in addition to having Inquisition and Thoughtseize. So if he didn't have Inquisition or Thoughtseize, and had a lot of creatures, I could probably make a game out of that. If he had a lot of creatures, if he had Inquisition and Thoughtseize and not so many creatures, I might have been able to make a game out of that, because I did curve out perfectly. I was just drawing lands off the top of my deck, and I had just a handful of great cards. But no, I didn't. Yeah, if he had just one creature out, I could probably beat that. I could play turn 2 Master of the Pearl Trident holding up Dispel, and then turn 3 Mirror Rejury holding up Dispel, and then throw my hand on the board. But no, the way he had it all, and that happens. It just happens. So I don't regret my keep at all, and that's that. And is Tectonic Edge? Yeah, the Tectonic Edge just fine on the. I think Tectonic Edge was fine on the play. So Daniel Smith, any sideboard cards you wish you had packed more of? Any sideboard cards that were lackluster? Maybe the 4th Tectonic Edge was lackluster, but I don't think so. If I played against Tron, I would have wanted all Tectonic Edges. I just didn't end up playing against Tron. I ended up playing against Grixis Control, though. No, like I said, I used my entire sideboard. I used my entire sideboard to its absolute full potential. Maybe, looking back, maybe I would have wanted a 4th Dispel over Unified Will. No, not really. If I played against Tron, I would have wanted that Unified Will. So Terrence asks, did you miss Kira? No. I'm running one of Kleek and Kira main and sideboard. Kleek is just overperforming for me. It's helping me so much. Without Kleek, I wouldn't have been able to win Game 2 against Josh Under Layton, because he would have just played Death Shadow. He had 2 Death Shadows in his hand, and I was able to Kleek one of them away and fight through 1 Death Shadow, but I wouldn't have been able to fight through 2 of them, because he could attack with 1 while leaving 1 to block the entire time, and I would have just lost. So Kyle asks, what would you say was the biggest get dunked on moment for you at the Grand Prix? The get dunked on, the manabase.com get dunked on instant replay was definitely against Bobby Fortainley, when I Kleeked him and he showed me all lands in his hand and all lands on the board. That's for sure. And Julian asks, Julian, how does it feel being in the feature match area? It feels great. If there was one thing I fist pumped, got excited for, was when my name was called for the feature match area. I've been waiting so damn long to show Merfolk on camera in the feature match for Wizards of the Coast. I was really excited for that, and I'm sure all of you had a big part to play, because I don't know. I mean, I was on the top tables, but I don't know if I was particularly the type of player that they wanted to show. Or I don't know if this was really the matchup they wanted to show. 2 random no-names, one guy's playing Merfolk, one playing Infect. But yeah, I was very, very excited to play on that feature match, on the feature match table. Didn't affect me at all. The only maybe it did, actually. And we'll talk about it later, because there was a point where I was trying to there was a point where I knew I was completely winning. There was nothing my opponent could do. I knew what was in his hand, and I wanted to, for camera, figure out a way to put the most Master Waves Elementals on the board, and I screwed it up. And we'll talk about that later. So maybe that's the only thing that affected me. I wanted for camera to put a bunch of Elementals on the board, and instead it looks like I semi-cheated my opponent. Mark asks, did the Timed Binder Mages pay off? Yes, they did. It helped a lot against Burn. It helped against Death Shadow, against Sam Black. What else did it help against? It helped against Jund. They helped a lot. They were a very good decision. I'm very glad I put them in the deck. And did you ever miss having Spell Pierce or Vapor Snag? Worst archetype match up versus this build. I didn't miss Spell Pierce or Vapor Snag. You can play with them. They're fine cards. There's nothing wrong with them. I just didn't end up playing with them in this tournament. Well, do you know what? I did play Dispel over Spell Pierce because of Burn. I really wanted to have a hard counter, and that was important. Dispel helped me defeat my 2 Burn opponents, and those Dispels were worth their weight in gold. Burn is going to be a very big deck right now because it's very good against Tron. It's probably good against Death Shadow. So I had to be prepared. I was preparing for Burn, and I made sure that I had those Dispels. So I would say Dispel is better. But what was the other card you were talking about? Vapor Snag or Dismember? It could go either way. You could probably easily play Vapor Snag right now. And the worst archetype, our worst matchup, Lantern Control. Just Lantern. We're not beating that deck. So Julian asks again, why did you sideboard in Tectonic Edge against Death Shadow? I mentioned that already. Rodrigo, Miguel Sibin, if you had to change anything in your 75s, what would it be? Nothing. No, that was fine. Well, I mean, going into the future, I'm going to make some changes, but I didn't have any regrets with the 75 that we played. And congratulations. And then we have David. Congratulations on your performance at Grand Prix Vancouver. I heard that you are going to Grand Prix Vegas. Will you be hosting a meetup? I won't be hosting a meetup, but I mean, you can find me there. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll see. We'll see what we can do. Here I am. Okay, everyone's got questions. So, okay, can you explain how you stacked everything when you vialed in the 2 Master of Waves with the Harbinger and Rejiri? Says another Mike. So he's talking about my Infect matchup, which was the first matchup against the first feature match. And I'll make a video about the Infect matchup, but I stacked everything correctly, and I'll explain, I guess, how I stacked it. But I still wasn't supposed to get the Elemental token. So what happened is, there's a Mirror Rejiri in play, and I have a Vial. And what I did do is I played Harbinger of the Tides. So I play Harbinger of the Tides, and then that triggers Mirror Rejiri's ability, which I target my Aether Vial, and still holding priority, I use my Aether Vial. So I'm targeting Aether Vial. I use my Aether Vial. Aether Vial is used. Master of Waves enters the battlefield. Master of Waves Elemental token trigger happens, and at this point though I should get 2 elemental tokens because my Harbinger of the Tides is still on the stack somewhere below down here. Like when I cast Harbinger of the Tides, Mirror Rejiri triggered, but it's not actually in play. So at this point I should get 2 elemental tokens. Instead I got 4 because I wasn't paying attention. And so I get those elemental triggers. Now I get to untap my Aether Vial. I untap my Aether Vial, and then at this point, Harbinger should enter the battlefield. And then after that, then I can put in the next Master of Waves into play and get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elementals. So whatever, that was my only screw up in the thing. I forgot that Harbinger of the Tides is not actually in play. But anyway, I hope that clears that up. So the professor asks, is Modern Merfolk a great deck or the greatest deck? It's the greatest deck. It's the best deck in Modern, and it will be the greatest of all time going in the future. Simon Slutsky asks, congrats again. How will you get ready for the Pro Tour? I'm just going to try out Blue-White Spirits. If that thing doesn't work, I'm going to stay at home. Did you burn your Hercules recalls yet? No, not yet. Still got those 4 foil Hercules recalls collecting dust. Spider webs are making a home and a nest around them. That's fine. Free rent. And was I happy with 4 Unified Will? Yeah, I was happy with 4 Unified Will. Although they never really came up. The way my tournament played out, Negate was just as good, I think. Negate was just as good as Unified Will. So Jegorsh asks, as a poll, I beg you, please pronounce your surname in the video. Yeah, Marshall Sutcliffe and Paul Cheon had some difficulties with that. Yeah, I know. I let them know somewhere near the end of the tournament how my last name was pronounced. It's my last name is Zaczek. Zaczek is pronounced Zaczek. So Popper Fox, how are the two Caverns? Did Cavernous Souls ever help or hinder you throughout the tournament? No, they did not hinder me, and I guess they helped me against my Grixis control opponent. Where else did they help me? I think they helped me against Ad Nauseam at some point, but I'm not sure where or when as weird as that sounds. Because they do play Pact of Negation. But I don't think it was never a big card. Like, I could have played with one, but it was still a player because of Grixis control. I played against two Grixis control players. And I expected to. Okay, so we got Deb PJ. What are you now? A shark, a pro, or a pro level shark? Still probably still a shark. I mean, maybe I'm semi-pro shark or whatever. But like, I'm not like a limited expert. I don't like playing all the formats. You could say I'm a pro of modern. Pro of Modern and Legacy. Aaron asks, how did the Dismembers work versus Vapor Snags? They worked great. They worked great because I could kill Dark Confidant. But that's not to say that Vapor Snag wasn't good. Vapor Snag probably could have been playable as well. And would have been more playable in the finals against, Death Shadow. Hey, why can't I go lower here? So, Keys, Bees, Knights, opinion on Smuggler Copter in Folk, opinion on Chalice in Merfolk Sideboard, opinion on one split between Kira and Kleek. Thanks. So I don't think Smuggler's Copter offers anything that I need in Merfolk. It doesn't help me in any of the matchups that I'm behind against. Like, how does it help against Lantern, for example? I think it's also dubious against Affinity. I don't think it's a bad card. I think it's a fine filler card because it does do some things that you want. Like, it can block flyers in Affinity, but it's just vulnerable against so many decks. It's just very, very, very vulnerable card. Like, Kolaghan's Command can blow it up and and kill something else. Whereas, like, Aether Vial can be completely ignored by Kolaghan's Command. So that's you're never getting 2-for-1 in that area. So I don't think it's a bad card, but I don't think it's a good card. So opinion on Chalice? No, I don't. Not looking at Chalice right now. And split between Kira and Kleek? It's possible. That's possible. Like, I was thinking after this turn, maybe I could put some Kiras in the sideboard. But then again, like, what do I want Kira for? I beat the Jund decks sort of fine. I mean, probably Kira is better than Kleek in the Jund matchup. I don't know. Like, there was a game where I Kleeked my opponent. He had Terminate, Bolt. I'm like, okay, then my Master of Waves is going to kill you. My 2 Master Waves is going to kill you. So I let him keep all that stuff, and I could very comfortably try to kill my opponent. Let's see. Next. Steve Sasala. Did you have a holy crap moment in the top 8? Did like Kleek showed you that you are great or I am in trouble? I don't understand what that means, but I didn't have... Are you talking about when I Kleek, what's his name? Josh, when he had the 2 Death Shadows? Like, it looked pretty bad. I'm like, I have no idea how I win this game. I've got, like, no cards in my hand. You have tons of cards in your hand, and you have 2 Death Shadows. But my only chance of winning was taking one of those Death Shadows away. If that was Akira, that was game over right there. I would not have beaten those 2 Death Shadows. It's impossible. It was impossible. Wayne Clark, are there any changes that you would make to your list knowing what you know after the Grand Prix? Also, you did awesome. Good job. Go Fish. So, Wayne, the only thing I need to play a little bit more against Eldrazi-tron to know what I would want to change, because I feel like that is still going to be a big deck going forward. Kira could be the right answer. but I'm not sure. Lords seem to be the right answer. But I actually, honestly, when I came home, the first thing I did was jam an 8Cs list online. And I went like 4-1 in a friendly league. And I was playing in a friendly league. I was playing in a friendly league because I was playtesting Gemstone Caverns. Gemstone Caverns. I'm gonna try this thing. I feel there's something there. So Alex, what was the meta that you were anticipating before submitting your list for the Grand Prix? I've answered that. It was basically everything that I did play against. Aiden asks, did 4 Tectonic Edge seem good? Always feels like 4 seems like too much. And 2, how did you think the matchups are for fish in this meta? Well, Tectonic Edge was mostly for the control matchup, for like Grixis control or even blue-white-red control. You need 4 Tectonic Edge in that matchup. Like, control can be very difficult if they have enough mana to do whatever they want, and if Ancestral Vision goes off and they have like a million cards in their hand, you're just not beating them. So the best way that we can attack them is cut off their mana. Just have no mana available to do nothing. You can't cast Cryptic Command. You can't cast like Kolaghan's Command with just red and blue mana. You can't cast Damnation. Like, it's their mana is very, very, very sensitive. So with Spreading Seas and Tectonic Edge combined, they have no chance. And the only way I could have that opportunity is if I have all 4 Tectonic Edges in the sideboard. So I did expect some form of control at the Grand Prix, and it worked out. And how do you think the matchups are for fish in this meta? I think like for the most part they're very fair. I mean, you have to abandon some matchups. Like, going into this tournament, I said to hell with Affinity and to hell with, I think, Red-Green Valakut. I had stuff for Red-Green Valakut. Tectonic Edge is playable. Not great because all their, like, any land drop negates it, any like Farseek negates it, etc. And I had the Unified Wills as well, but still it didn't feel good because I was playing with Dispel instead of Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce would have made that matchup fine, but Dispel makes it iffy. It makes it a bit iffy. You can still counter Summoner's Pact. You can still counter Lightning Bolt, but you can't counter Anger of the Gods, which is the important one. In the grand scheme of things, the matchups are all very close. It's all very tough, but I'm still winning, so I don't care. And lastly, Jacob, what matchups did you face all throughout the tournament? I've answered that. And overall, what matchups are really challenging? They're all pretty challenging. Like, Merfolk's a very difficult deck to play because you're constantly trying to play around all your opponent's removal and sequence your spells in just the right way that you don't get blown out or you don't fall too far behind. I like Burn is always a nail biter. Jund, I would say the removal decks are always the hardest. Like, actually, the easiest decks were probably my Ad Nauseam opponents because that's easy. You put creatures on the board, you turn them sideways constantly, and at some point you just hold up counter spells to counter the Ad Nauseam that they're using to go off with. So yeah, I should have mentioned that. Ad Nauseam was probably one of the easier matchups. And also, where do you see Modern going in the next year, and how does Merfolk fit in with that? I have no idea what Modern's going to look like in the next year, because for every single set that comes out, those cards could completely shake up the metagame, and I have no idea how Merfolk is going to fit in that. What the Merfolk gets the more powerful when the metagame gets narrow. The more narrow the metagame is, the better Merfolk is, because we can customize the deck to beat a very narrow metagame, but it's very hard to customize when the metagame gets too broad. And I built my deck to beat a certain range of decks, and fortunately I played against all of them, so that helped me a lot. But if I ended up playing against maybe one too many Red-Green Valakuts, or if I played against too many... What else was I not really prepared for? I don't know, like maybe against like certain Merfolk decks, this thing wasn't that great, because Dismember is not very good, and I didn't have a very good sideboard. Well, Dismember is fine, but Vapor Snag would be better. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but like, yeah. So my list was pretty good overall. So thank you very much for all the questions. I hope that helps a little bit. I hope I gave you a little something. And then over the next few days, I'm gonna make sure I edit. I did do a vlog of Grand Prix Vancouver when I get my footage from Andrew Day 2 Dryden. Andrew Day 2 Dryden was with me. He took some footage of the event while I was there. He took some video of me and some other stuff. And we're going to compile it together and have a great video. So thank you very much. I'm going to also, I don't know when, have some sort of online interview with Miss Mulligan. I think there's also some website that's going to do an interview with me. I'll let you know on Twitter and Facebook where that's going to be. Yeah, that's it. All right, so we had a great weekend. Thank you very much for like following me. I watched the Twitch chat. It was fantastic. Everyone was cheering me on, and there was a lot of good Merfolk mojo, but unfortunately, it got a little swamped by the Grand Prix winner Josh Utter-Layton. But don't worry, Merfolk will return. Merfolk will return. So this has been Nikachu talking about Grand Prix Vancouver and answering all your questions.